Greetings everyone, namaste, a warm welcome to you. Hey guys, this is the October 2018 Earth Predictions, Global Predictions or Psi card reading. Also sort of teams in with collective consciousness and remote viewing. So a few people sort of say there's no remote viewing involved in this, but in real terms, remote viewing is psychically connecting to a distant object or event that is taking place, which is exactly what these kind of readings are in essence, as are most predictive energies. So let's shuffle here. We will use two of the traditional tarot cards. This is the Morgan Greer deck, and we will just shuffle a little bit for October and see what the general inspiration or feeling is. So this is for the Global Conscious, Collective Conscious readings for October 2018. The first card out is the Ace of Cups, which is a beautiful one indeed. And the second one is the Ten of Swords. Not such a beautiful card. If we look at this Ace of Cups, you know, it's one of the most beautiful in the deck. It's one that everyone loves to see come out. It generally talks to us about connections of the heart or emotions, and it quite often refers to healing of relationships or emotions or the heart as well. So people thinking or feeling about the love vibe, about connecting, about healing relationships, about things being done under more of a program or a direction that is either spurned from or has the basis of love around it. So perhaps for October, love is going to be in the air at many different levels. So remember too that this card can also be conceptual of spirituality, and you know, if you even really wanted to tie it into some sort of religious perception as well. It is known as a very spiritual card. The bubbling over in the top of the cup there is like a golden white light energy, sort of like a cosmic source energy coming in. And some people refer to it like a Christ light or a white light. So that's where the connection to spirituality and sometimes religious energy can come from as well. It is also about the conception of things and the beginning of new projects or new ideas or feelings or emotions, and we see that through the lotus flower at the bottom of the card. We can also think that this card could project itself in terms of like a mass compassion event where people feel the need to either pour out love or feel heart-centered peace or harmony towards either another group of people or a mass project. I also note that there is water pouring from this cup. So given that these readings are a little bit different from your standard predictive readings, I am wondering if that water has something to do with the feeling that love may bring. Now we have just had the tsunami in Indonesia over the weekend, and the September readings did pick up the energies of a tsunami, especially with the message card. And I know the message card was there around about the time when the Japanese tsunami hit in 2011. So it definitely replays itself out, that message card, when we get activities that create things with water, tidal surges, and also mass compassion events. So I'm feeling that this Ace of Cups could even be tied into this event that occurred literally on the split or tie over of the dates between September and October. If we look at the next card, the Ten of Swords. So we have a new beginning and an ending here, because the aces are all about new beginnings and the tens are the final structure or the final ending of something. The Ten of Swords is really quite unpleasant to look at in many ways, and it gives us the feeling of defeat and loss and pain and having not been able to succeed at something we were attempting to do and feeling deflated and defeated. It can also, with all those swords, possibly literally represent emotional defeat at the personal level, but I'm getting the feeling here this again could be contributing to a larger degree of energy that may affect a lot of people, and it may come about because they're at the end of, they can't go on any longer. Whatever that is they've been trying to do, probably not necessarily as an individual, but perhaps a group, they're like, I can't go on, the brick wall is too much. So it falls over, it finishes, it comes to a completion, and not a happy completion. It's like a shame or a sorrow or a loss. So the two cards there, traditionally in a tarot reading, would be, completely opposed to one another, yet they're sitting very closely. So I am wondering if they're connected one way or another, or if the Ace actually has a more positive energy to give to the Ten of Swords. I'm also seeing in the background of the Ten of Swords what looks like snow falling, so I'm thinking this could relate to the Northern Hemisphere, and it could again be relating to weather events or maybe a natural event. So I wonder if we're still talking about the possibility of things like earthquakes or major hurricanes or big storms, sea swells again, where there's kind of too much damage and people feel very deflated, or they just feel like they can't keep going on. Let's put those aside for now. We may get some more messages from them once we deal out the actual side cards and see if we can connect to them. So this is for October 2018. Venus, I think, has just gone retrograde, and it is actually a time where a lot of astrologers in particular are talking about the Libran month of October could be very much a month that is sort of synchronized or energized around the energy of love and relationships, which is definitely what the Ace of Cups talks to us about. So for October 2018. The Fortune card, which was out last month too. The Warrior. Ooh, Death. Oh, the Message. The Home. And the Body. Ooh. Okay, well, the Fortune card's probably about the nicest one in there, and then the Home card. The three others, the Message, the Warrior, the Body, forming sort of like a triangle, and also the Death card, I don't like them very much at all actually in the combination they're in. We'll start with the Fortune. The Fortune, the Message, and I think the Warrior were in last month, and if that's correct, they really are still pushing their messages through. So when we get them repeating in a second month in a row, they sometimes have a stronger message to say, and they sometimes redo over very similar type of energies. So if the Fortune card was out, we noticed a little bit of flux with money on a couple of occasions. I think the dollar's values were going up and down due to political issues quite often, or tariffs, for instance. Say that America was putting on China, then we'd see the Chinese dollar, I think, drop, then the American dollar would go up and down. I know we're having problems here in New Zealand with our dollar value is quite low due to different financial issues and political things going on. So I feel that the Fortune card can often indicate that there are issues around money. And this can be any form of how we obtain money or spend it or invest in it, including things like oil and gold as well. There may be, again, still in October, this fluctuation going up and down, things going into hiding or going into reversal around finances globally. It doesn't seem to be that much of a stable month, and it feels a bit retrospective, as if it's going backwards a little bit. If we come to the Warrior card, we've talked about this one quite extensively in the past. He's fairly predictable. He is a warrior. He has that type of energy. He is often associated with the Northern Hemisphere, or the older parts of the globe where humans have been established for a longer time. He looks quite Europeanish, or up through the Middle Eastern type areas, or the top end blocks of Africa and through there. He can be about hand-to-hand combat or increased fighting going on. So, we've noticed there's tensions around in Syria this month just gone by. We've seen people now, countries putting forces up towards the North Pole because they've found Russian ships up there, so there's sometimes stuff going on with Putin moving around. Well, really, the whole place is quite in an upheaval. So the Warrior, it's not unexpected that he would turn up, but he does show an increased feeling or fueling of warrior type tendencies. And I noticed too that he's standing there with the sword in his hand, very similar to these swords up here. So there's possibly an increase in combat, and remember this can be terrorist related activities as well. And it could be that someone significant is killed or damaged or hurt in warring or an attack of some sort as well. That's a possibility. Some of the other things that the warrior card reminds me of is there's water in the background is surging through here. It looks as though it's possibly breaking out of the boundaries that restrain it. So it's water that is rushing through the tents or this little city behind him. So it can again refer to massive storm surges, inland tsunami type energies, mudslides, things that damage buildings with regards water, or again geographical like earthquakes. It can even be that this could be smoke in the background, so it could even be fire related. But overall the warrior's energy is one of a little bit of doom and gloom and negative activity. We come to the death card. It's quite simplistically death. It can imply mass deaths, and it can imply sometimes brought about from either man-made causes such as terrorist activities or warring or fighting, or natural causes. But I've sometimes noted that this does happen through man-made type causes as opposed to just natural earth issues going on. The other thing that the death card can mean or refer to is tunnels or mountains. So sometimes going underground or tunnelling or being in caves or finding information that pertains to ancient geographical sites as well. So there might be some new information come through about, and we've seen this over the summer this year in parts of England, the ground was so parched that they found new unknown archaeological finds of ancient civilizations. So there could be more information in October and early November pertaining to this. New archaeological finds on the planet that we didn't know existed, or we understand more about them. And in fact the fortune card is giving the same message as that. So I think we will find some new archaeological digs, new information pertaining to them, and they could be tied up in this older part of the globe, which kind of, I guess, makes more sense. I guess we'll leave the death card there at those messages. Remember too, if any of you have any better ideas on what your feelings are about it, or if you can intuitively or collective consciously tie into these cards and what the messages may mean or represent, please leave your messages below the video. The message card, well, it was here in September. I recall it very vividly, and I talked about the fact that it had been around at the time of the Japanese tsunami. We've now had quite another big tsunami in Indonesia. I don't think the earthquakes are over yet. I get the feeling there are more coming, and they could then, since this card has reappeared, we could experience some more tsunamis this month. There are other messages for the message card, and they can be that the seas are just disturbed one way or another, and this can be through weather issues as opposed to earthquakes. It can also be relating to mass animal die-offs or problems with our sea or aquatic life on the planet. It can also refer to issues with boats, so we might see an increased number of things going on our oceans or seas or lakes, things like that, or rivers around boats. We come to the home card, and we see a cosy looking room in a home with a cat lying there on the rug and a fire going in the background. So the card can actually relate to fires quite strongly, because the fire is almost one of the main parts of the picture. And this can be fires that affect homes or buildings, or even bushfires. So they might actually be bushfires that start and then burn homes down. So there can also be building fires that are relating to these cards over here actually. I hope not, but that's a possibility. The other thing is that the home card often references, in my mind, somewhere close to home for me, and I'm reading this from New Zealand. So there is a possibility that there's referencing here for New Zealand in some of these messages, and there there's also a possibility that it's our neighbours. So the most direct neighbours we have, even though we are a tiny little set of islands in the middle of nowhere in the southern hemisphere on the planet Earth, we do have Australia as a big close neighbour. We have some of the Pacific islands as well, such as Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, Niue, Rarotonga, places like that. So they could also be affected one way or another. And this card can sometimes stand for shaking or quaking. I see an animal again here in the picture, so we've referenced animals a couple of times throughout the reading. We get to the body card as the last card, and again it's not particularly pleasant, but there can be some positives with it. So the positives, let's start with there. This can be medical breakthroughs or technological and medical breakthroughs about especially things that deal with the insides of our bodies. So finding the cures to things like viruses, autoimmune diseases, cancers. So sometimes when this body card comes out, we see a really nice jump up in positive information about ways of stopping or halting or finding immunization against certain diseases or disorders. So that's a really good positive. That's a possibility. The other thing that the body card can represent is possibly we can get a new flu hitting the planet, although it's not flu season yet. It's very early for that to happen, but there's a possibility that we can see a flu outbreak. It may not be a totally human one, it could be something that relates to animals, such as the bird flu or the swine flu, or it could cross over from one to the other, from animal to human. There is also the possibility that there can be mass deaths, and it's right beneath here, where the bodies are damaged and they are really not very nice to look at, and there's damage done to the outer structure of the body. So unfortunately I find that reading a little bit gloomy. I'm hoping it's not going to actually pertain to as many of the kind of negative connotations as those cards have had previously set for them. And bearing in mind that I feel predictions are becoming more and more difficult to do these days because we seem to have so many possible outcomes and they change really quickly. And because we're tied into the collective conscious energies to uplift these readings, that if enough people on the planet pick a different outcome or a different direction with their thoughts and feelings, then the outcomes can change quite quickly as well. So if we all focused on the positives, such as the Ace of Cups type energy, and utilize cohesive love and the activation of that and uplifting thoughts and projections of protection and harmony and peace on the planet, then more of that would actually be uplifted as well. So there we are, guys. We will see how the month goes through, but I don't actually particularly like the mix of the cards on the table. I feel that we've seen better mixes before, or matches I should say, and this bodes a little bit grim. I hope that that's incorrect. So thank you for joining me. Please leave your comments beneath and any ideas that you personally have about the cards or the messages that you receive as individuals, and we'll keep an eye on them and see, you know, how much of the collective conscious energies we're all tapping into. Thanks again everyone. Be safe. Much love. Namaste.